going to unmute so people can hear it.
Okay, got you. Okay, great.
But if people want to go on YouTube, you can listen and unmute. Hello, friends. It is your favorite Scrum Master here, Anna Bangam. I am here to share information so you can decide how you want to use the information. If you don't know me already, I am your favorite Scrum Master. I am a Safe Coach Consultant. I am also in the military, a staff sergeant in the military, working logistics, been there 10 years. I love to talk about Scrum. I've been, matter of fact, talking about Scrum since I woke up this morning. And I'm just continuing the process of talking more about Scrum. All right. We do this or we do this YouTube every Monday, live YouTube on 7 p.m. Eastern time. We try to keep it for at least 30 to an hour, just to ensure that, people are able to retain the information and not do too much information overload. In addition to me being on YouTube, I'm also streaming from Clubhouse. So if you're not on Clubhouse, you're probably doing a disservice to yourself. So sign up for Clubhouse, and you can find me at Scrum Master or Scrum Master Champions. You can sign up for the room. If you're interested in joining a community of practice, it is a free community of practice. We meet twice a week on Sundays, anytime between 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. Okay. So today's discussion, while we wait for our other candidate here to join us, another Scrum Master to join the conversation, the conversation is really to focus on working with cultural diverse teams. And the reason for this is because a lot of Scrum Masters that get hired, they're, I want to say at least 68% or at least 70% that they'll be working with team members that are not within the United States, and they'll be quite offshore. They'll have offshore members. Okay, so that is part of the reason why we're having this conversation, because a lot of times you would see different dynamic on the team, and you wouldn't be able to know how to address it. And if you've had information on how other people have addressed it in the past, it's easier for you to figure out how to move forward. Without going any further, I just want to pause check and make sure that other people are able to see me and hear me on here on YouTube. So give me a thumbs up or some type of reaction that you are here and you can hear me. You are here and you can hear me. Can anybody hear me here? Isaac, thank you. Okay. Yeah, so just topic of discussion, working with diverse team members. So a lot of time, thank you. A lot of times your Scrum Masters when hired are placed on teams. And when you're placed on teams, it can be challenging dealing with team members that are not from offshore. Working offshore can be India, UK, China, right? You name it, offshore. Anywhere that is, even Canada, right? Anywhere that is not in the same region as the United States, right? Some of the reason I would just start with some of the experiences that I've had is that most of the time you tend to have team members that are either really quiet and not talk too much in the meetings, just because they are just not trying to be that person to call out anything that is not going well. They tend to allow like whoever their lead person to be, right? They tend to have a tech lead on their team, and they have that tech lead to be the voice of reason for them, the spokesperson for them, and whatever that tech lead says tend to be what they decide to go with. If you have actually experienced this, go ahead and put a yes in the chat and let me know that you have actually experienced working with team members that are just really quiet, offshore team members that are really quiet and just not know what to do with them, right? So you can put it in the chat and let me know. But for just discussion wise, I've personally worked with team members that are relatively really quiet, and they have that one person who was their spokesperson. Now, some of the things that I did was because I myself I am Cameroonian, and just understanding my journey. I was very shy. The Anna Bangam you see today, your favorite Scrum Master, is not the Anna Bangam that you would have seen 18 or 19 years ago coming from Cameroon. I was super shy. I would not speak to you until spoken to. So, because of my understanding, I realized that it was important for me to actually connect and care about the people beyond myself. And what did I mean? What did that mean? Caring about the people meant that I really genuinely wanted to know about them, know about their culture, know about learn some of the things that they were feeling as a challenge because these things would normally not happen. It normally would not happen on the team. They would not outrightly just tell you, "Oh, I'm having a challenge with X, Y, and Z." Right? Even if you are a retrospective, it most likely will not come out. However, we do set up that one-on-one time, which I think is so important for Scrum Masters to have one-on-one time with the team members. Yes, I made sacrifices. I'm not asking all Scrum Masters to go ahead and do the same. I work with team members that was in India and China. So what I used to do was I would have to set separate time. It was my I think 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. here. I would have meeting back to back meetings. So there was about five of them. I'll have a back to back meeting in that same day, just so that I can have like 30 minutes per person. And if like it exceeds, some of them were really very quiet and some of them were not. If it exceeds the time, then I'll just book it for the next day, right? So what I did was I had one-on-one meetings. I see Collins, you're out here. Let me join you, and then we can introduce you. Okay. So I had one-on-one meeting with the team members. Yes, the one-on-one meeting was it was at night my time. I know a lot of Scrum Masters would not want to have one-on-one time beyond past 8 p.m. But I did that because one, I had to think I don't have kids, right? I don't have obligations as far as like besides that too, it's just personal for me. It was personal accountability or responsibility for me to make sure that I get to understand the team members and whatever it took. So I started spending time with them, understanding each of them. And what I learned was that a lot of them were very just shy because they were not proud of their English. They were not comfortable speaking. And so they felt as though the one-on-one they really appreciated. They've had a Scrum Master before me, have several Scrum Masters before me, but nobody took the time to actually get to understand and learn them, right? So we became friends, like became real true friends, to the point where when they came to the United States, we went out, I had the team, we collected money to buy like gifts and stuff for their family, and I mean for the other team members that were back in their country, and give it to them, and they were so happy and so like we I knew their kid's name, right? I knew what was happening in their lives beyond work, and which was one of the reasons why I went on and I became a life coach because I realized that I needed to understand people beyond the work, and so that was that. I'll share more, but before I do, I just don't want Colin staring here, and you guys don't know who he is. Colin, welcome. Thank you for joining. Please go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know if you have anything to add to, working with cultural diverse teams.
Thank you, Anna. Looks like we're making a very good tag team here.
Yes, this is your second time, right, joining?
hmm
Okay, great. I love
and we
it.
happen to be African next door neighbors. You Cameroonian, I'm Nigerian, so there is
Ah,
that dynamic going
I
on
like
there.
it.
Nigeria, Cameroon. So
I like it. I like it.
that's kind of fun. So yeah, it works. But yeah, funny thing is, look, I've spent a large part of my life being in journalism and also managing projects. And I've done a bit of this, I've done a bit of that. And before I kind of made the transition into Agile and Scrum. So, and have done quite a few, should I say, projects using Agile. In fact, at the moment, I'm actually executing an Agile transformation for my current organization. So trust me, it's not that easy. It's a lot of work, and also there's a lot of should we say not pushback, but just maybe you might have a bit of passive, not too much, just a little bit of passive resistance. So um, and fortunately, I think on the whole, I think I've got it all covered. Everyone seems to want to be in a position to do that. So that kind of helps me and it helps everyone at the same time. So that's good. In terms of diversity, I think for the most part, um, yeah, and I think I've had the same kind of a similar experience in terms of working with people across different cultures, not just so much different time zones, because I think I've been somewhat fortunate in the sense that I've been mostly in the same time zones with the people I work with, except for maybe, I mean, the US being what it is, you've got Pacific time folks, you've got Central Time folks, and then you've got Eastern Time, which is where I am. But I think what we try to do in those circumstances is just to make sure that um, meetings and events are set at times where it is convenient for everyone. So what we tried to do at the start, and especially I kind of pushed for that, was that we don't start meetings before 9 a.m. Not 9 a.m. Eastern. Now, what that means is that the folks working on Pacific time at least got themselves um, an extra, well, sometime, because I mean that means they have to wake up at 6, to be at a meeting. So we try to keep that to the bare minimum. So stand-ups will probably start at 9:30, 10ish. So that gives them some time to get into the swing of things. And then I think I've had some, should I say, experience with working with friends from India, and so. And the one thing you notice about these folks is that I think they are just like Africans. They are ready to work all hours. So it sort of just makes things a bit more. I mean, not easy for them, but for those of us here in a whole stateside. So, and when that happens, you try to be as accommodating as possible for them, even if they don't feel like they need it, but just be accommodating, let them understand that you understand where they come from, and the fact that you make certain accommodations for them in terms of just being able to excuse a bit of tardiness here and there, but they hardly ever are. So, and also like you mentioned, just knowing people, understanding them, and being able to relate to them on a personal as well as professional level. I think that gives you a leg up in terms of your relationship with the people working with you, and it also helps in them being able to open up to you. I mean, I surprised one of my team members recently. He took a PTO on a Friday and wasn't due to come back until Tuesday. So I was like, "Hey, where are you going off to?" "Oh, my wife's having a baby." So apparently he comes back. Everybody kind of just and then I give him a little something for the baby, and he was way out of his mind. Just kind of mailed it to him at home because he didn't know I was asking for his address, and he was way overjoyed. So those sort of little things, they matter. And so, yeah, in some ways, dealing with diversity is just a simple question of human relations, just knowing people, knowing what works for people, and I think basically that covers it.
Yeah, you touched on a couple points. Like not recently, I think last year, we had a team member who was about to deliver, and we had another member who was getting married. So it was the best of both worlds, right? Being somebody new, entering into a commitment, lifelong commitment, and as a team, we came and I created a chat with the rest of the team members and asked them, hey, somebody actually said they would be interested. Like, can we do something for them? So we created a card, and in addition to that, we sent them an Amazon, both of them. So we just split whatever the cost was. And the member was leaving on maternity leave, and we gave it to them. They cried. It was it was one of those things where they're like, it's like, you don't know what's happening in people's lives, right? Like what they have to do to show up on camera. And before I was very adamant about, oh, you need to be on camera to be able to do X, Y, and Z. Now I'm in a space of understanding, right? Like, yes, sometimes there's focus that is needed, and you will get that type of focus if people are on camera. However, you can still have people on camera that are literally looking on the other screen. Why? That's a bit more distracting, right? So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that at that point, it made that member feel appreciated and valued, right?
Yeah.
And that is the little things. And another thing that you touched on again was the people that work offshore. So most of our friends that work, our partners that work offshore, and they're more likely to be the yes person, right? So there are times where they're going to say yes to something, and takes them over. Like, it doesn't matter how long it takes them. But in America, if you were to ask that same developer to do X, Y, and Z, they'll be like, "Yeah, that's beyond my bandwidth." Two different culture here, like,
Yep.
and it's like, and that's the biggest part where you kind of need to help the team, those developers, to be able to understand the limits, to push back, right? Not just push back because they don't want to do the work, but push back if they cannot take the work anymore because it's past their capacity, right? And just having those conversations with them to understand. And it's so crazy because you will learn so much about, like, sometimes, like, somebody, like, let's say somebody was doing a code, and they were doing a code and they merged to branch, and then the person in the US, in India or in China or one of the other countries, Ireland or UK, got to administer the code. Specifically, let me just focus on India and China, right? They got to be the one to review and do whatever they need to do, and then they saw a mistake. You know what tend to happen? Most of the time, they tend to rework instead of telling the person that, hey, can you adjust X, Y, and Z? It happens so many times.
Yep.
And you wouldn't know this until you have conversations to understand from the team perspective what's really going on, right? Because they would rather do a rework than to tell somebody that, hey, what you sent to me was trash. Or didn't work.
True.
Or didn't work at all.
Yep.
It just amazes me.
Yeah.
And us as Scrum Masters, we can. I don't know if anybody in the chat, YouTube, or I want to say Instagram, but not Instagram, but on Facebook, if you Scrum Master in the practice, you've experienced that where a developer from offshore will rather rewrite the entire script or line of code instead of telling somebody from the state side that they mess up something, or like to do a rework instead of just telling that person that, okay, because to them it's like they're criticizing on their work, and it means that that person, they don't know, they're trying to prevent whatever reaction they might get from providing that feedback.
Yeah, you have to save them from themselves.
Yes. And that's like, it's mind-blowing. But in the US, I promise you that developer would say, hey man,
Hey
I
man,
had to check it.
your code is crap. But here's the thing. I mean, I don't know somehow whether it's something that I've been fortunate or just sometimes maybe I'm yet to get there. But I mean, the folks I've worked with, I've found that they're very, very collaborative. And so if something like that pops up, you're more likely to see someone say, hey, I saw this. How do we fix this? You know, I mean, just was it yesterday? We had something to do with an environment that wasn't quite testing properly, and someone actually said, "Hey, you know what?" Because the other chap who was working on it had to work on a release that was something that was urgent, so to speak. So he didn't have time to fix that little
Bug.
jig in the software. So and it was kind of like holding up stuff, not too much, but the other developer was like, "Hey, you know what? Don't worry, go ahead and do it. I got this." And so he spent, and the reason I say this is because almost all of my team members are shared resources. So
Mm,
we've got a number of projects going on, and there isn't a single dedicated engineer that's
it's focused
100%
on the-
committed to one team. So they are all shared resources across at least three different projects.
Mm,
So and this particular work was on a project where the sprint was going to end
mhm.
in 2 days, while the other one was on a sprint that has started, has still had about, I think, 10 days to go. It's a 3 week sprint. So he actually dropped what he was doing on the other project and focused on helping to resolve this one. And he just actually got it done this morning and was like, hey, you know what? We're good. So, and I saw that, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy you a pizza. So,
That's amazing. So you said a couple of things that I'm not quite sure how that works in your organization. Gifting, right? Gifting for some organization is different. Um,
mhm.
like like I personally would only gift like buy a pizza. Wait, would I buy a pizza? No, I'll just clear the board.
Pizza works because the thing about pizza is that everybody can share the pizza.
Yeah, but if I guess you talk about a team that's co-located, right?
Yeah.
It's co-located
Now
team.
here's the thing. Like we have different team members. So like I've got like almost a third of the team co-located, while the other ones are, kind of, off. Well, not well. I'll call it
Okay.
offshore, so to speak. So yeah. I mean, you could do something here, and you have team members
Mm,
who can all partake, and then I mean, the other side we could always do theirs at different time.
okay, cool. So I'm just saying that so in the so some organizations have like policies as far as gifting, right? The reason I'm calling this out is because I just don't want anybody to get out of here and be like, yeah, I need to be
True.
buying food for my team
Oh
members.
no.
Seems as though we're collaborative, and I'm being a servant leader to look out for the team and buy them stuff, right? I just wanted to make sure. So most of the time organizations have budget. If I
Mhm.
my previous company, they had budget for the team, so whatever activities we want to do, they can do it. Then we would just have to, like, if we want to do DoorDash, everybody would have a certain amount, and then they would do get DoorDash food for everybody
Mhm.
to eat. If we do decide to want to do like lunch together as such. Now, if they're offshore, that I'm sure they have their own policies. So most of the time, if I want to do activity that involves buying something, we'll normally engage their product, their managers, and then the product owner will be connected there too, because then they do some of them deal with budgeting, right? And that is allocated for the teams. I just wanted to clear that out, so nobody gets
Mhm.
here and
Oh
said,
yeah.
"Oh, Colin and Anna was talking about the other day that we can buy pizza for our team members because we saw that they were hungry."
Mhm. Yeah. Don't go splashing out.
You're on your own.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, I own. Cool. So I guess that we'll leave it. I want to leave it here for other people who have questions. I'm not on YouTube right now. I'm not on YouTube. I'm not on Instagram right now. I'm on Clubhouse right now.
Clubhouse.
But I wonder if there are any questions in the chat there that we want to answer
Mhm.
there
Yeah.
from the audience.
I was actually going to listen to Clubhouse from here, but there's no way I can kill the volume, so the audio is still going to get in here. So I just yeah. Okay, good. I think it's the same thing with you as well. That's why you muted. Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, and so maybe while you're looking out for those questions, might be a good time to bring up something. So now, usually, um, especially my previous organization, we've always had like all aligned cadence across all the different teams. Um, so the PI planning is aligned, everybody does at the same time, and then goes away and does their thing. Now, in trying to transition to an agile, to make a transition here, I'm doing the same thing, which makes sense, to have everyone be on the same cadence. Now, the thing is, all the teams are not working on the same project, and they are not releasing at the same cadence. So their release plans are different because they are working for different government clients, and you know how the government is. You're in that space. So in trying to bring everyone into the same cadence, I'm kind of thinking, is it a good idea? Is it okay to just leave them the way they are so that everybody's release plan is tied to their own particular government client, or should you just align them and still, go the same way so everybody is not just aligned, but the release planning is also in some ways um, uh, similar, sort of. So, and that's something that in working out this transition, I've kind of been struggling with. Um, but I think I've come to the conclusion, and that's why I think you probably might want to weigh in here, that aligning everybody would be the best solution here. Just because if I do want to have PI planning, even though they're on different projects, different delivery schedules, it still makes sense because you can still deliver or release between sprints. So I think it's something I'd just like you to weigh in on while you're reading your comments.
No, so I guess the big question here is, what problem are you trying to solve for them?
The release dates, mostly.
Okay. What about the release dates?
They're separate,
Okay.
so it might be a good idea to align them.
Why?
Well, just so that in some ways we're not having sprints ending at different times, more or less.
Okay. So what is the cause for what impact does it cause for a team ending at different time?
I think what it does is, especially because most of these guys are shared resources, it kind of puts them under a bit of pressure week by sprint by sprint. So I'm just trying to see if I can ease that pressure a little bit so that they actually know that. I mean, it doesn't make sense for each. I mean, again, like I said, these are shared resources, right? So if we have different cadence, so now they're having PI planning, different times rather than all at once.
Okay. So are they in the same they're not in the same value stream, are they?
No.
They're not in the same value stream. So in PI planning, how many teams per I guess like so I'm just trying to understand from the organizational standpoint, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
start with the objectives for what you guys are trying to deliver. And then from there, they talk about business context, right? And then
Yep.
from there, they allowed the teams to be able to share and see what they plan to, work on and whatever
Mm-hmm.
blockers that they're having, right? So my question that I'm trying to understand from this standpoint, like, yes, I think it will make sense for you guys to have
Mm-hmm.
a line for that part. But how would that help the other people that are not working on the same objective? Is it possible to align them based on value streams, then have that? Because it's like if I'm working on a road and you're working like apple and oranges, right? If I'm working on apple and oranges, why should I care about what your orange is about, right? Because then that's where that people talk about time, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
waste of time, not seeing value in the meetings and stuff like that. So like that's why I'm asking these questions to
Yeah,
understand.
that's a very good point, and I think which probably makes the case for staggered cadence, because I mean that's why it's good to put two heads together, because thinking just thinking about it, it brings up something that in the midst of all of this, big picture thinking, I didn't quite get to the nuts and bolts,
Mm-hmm.
because when it comes to breakout time, these guys are shared resources. So,
Mm-hmm.
and if they're working on two different projects, then they would need to be in two different places at the same time to be in
Mm-hmm.
those breakout. Yeah.
Yes.
So exactly. So it makes sense now to have the staggered cadence. The trouble with that is that we're going to be having people are going to be involved in PI planning more than once per PI. So we have three teams. I think right now we have about five teams, and each of those engineers are sort of like spread across those teams. So what's going to happen now is you're probably going to have people having PI planning um, on in consecutive weeks, say almost 3 consecutive weeks running.
Yeah. So just another thing, food for thought, right? It can still be staggered so that you have people available wherever it's needed, right?
Mhm.
However, you also got to think of it from this standpoint. Could it be possible for you guys to do when you guys are doing the pre-work? Because that pre-work, you're going to still need those people, right? Because now
Mhm.
you got to think from a developer perspective. They're attending all these meetings, they get burned out. When do they get a chance to do the work,
Yep.
right? So you got to
Mhm.
also think, ooh, to understand. Okay, ask them, get their insight as far as like what would be the best approach because they are part of the problem, right? They're in the problem.
Mhm.
I'm sure that
Mhm.
either one of them would have thought about an idea that is not being shared. I'm not sure if you guys do your inspect and adapt. If you guys do inspect and adapt, where you guys get a chance to just look at what was delivered and also think about possible ways to improve, right? So that way
Mhm.
the people that are in shared they're in different places can be able to share what would be the best approach. But in a mindset, you got to think about the people and their timing, right? What value they add versus having a big meeting that's convenient for everybody. It's convenience does not necessarily mean that value added.
That is.
It's just that we're convenient. It's working for us. Me.
Yep. But what's the value?
Yes. So think about the value. So maybe the people that needs to work together should have one value stream where they're just
Mhm.
focusing on having a focus group. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a PI planning that you go there and have a breakout room session. Maybe you
Mhm.
guys can have before you even get to those meetings to already have a focus group that are just focusing on that particular planning there and getting the insight. You can maybe use some of your refinement, some of your planning, right, to start having some of the
Mhm.
discussion so that way it's not too interruptive when it gets to the time for planning.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Sounds good. See, this is what happens when you bounce ideas off of someone. It makes you think. It makes you think even more.
No, well, I'm happy you brought it up for discussion here and for us to have this conversation. So you guys just got an additional freebie active conversation, um, knowledge sharing session here.
Mhm.
So that's good. No, I appreciate you, Colin, for coming up on this call to asking the question, and in addition to that, providing insight as far as like what you have done in the past that has been helpful working with diverse or you know, co-located and what is and distributed teams,
Yep.
distributed
Mhm.
teams. And I hope that people learn a thing or two there to put in their toolbox to learn. This is sometimes interview questions. How do you interact with diverse team members? And I think we've shared so much details that at this point you should be able to you should be able to hear both of myself and Colin speaking while you answer that question. In your sleep or your drink. That's it. All right.
And yeah, and one more thing that I did not And I think it's important because sometimes, I mean, some people might want to do this, others might not, but I find that it works for my teams. I've done it twice in two different organizations and it worked. And that's creating a dedicated dev day or dev time. Now, in the previous organization, what I did was there's a 2 hour block every day that's strictly dev time. So no meetings, nothing, just 2 hour block of work. So whatever you want to do, focus, do your dev work. And the guys loved it because they were getting pulled from all over and almost every time, oh, come do this, come do that, or that. But once they had that focused time, it was harder to pull them away so they could actually spend that time doing work. Now, currently, what I did this time was to say, hey, look, because here there was also a lot of meetings, like across different stuff. So it was hard to do that on a daily basis. So what I did was, okay, look, you know what? Let's have one day that's a dedicated dev day. So Thursdays are strictly no meeting days. Doesn't matter whatever, even if it's from even the VP himself knows. I mean, he called me up and I spoke and I told him, look, this is why I'm implementing this because you have these guys being pulled from so many different directions that every day, I mean, they can barely find focus time to do actual dev work. So Thursday is the one day where you can fit meetings Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays. Go knock yourself out. Thursdays, let these guys work. So now Thursdays, nobody touches the devs. Everybody just focuses to do work. So you can decide for your teams to implement whether it's the daily one, 2 hour block of time that's closed out for dev work, or you can take one day during the week and do that. And then I use that day for myself to sort of like look at the metrics, run through things, and if there's anything that needs attending to, any blockers I need to deal with, any impediments I need to deal with, whatever. I use that time to kind of deal with it.
Absolutely. No, that's really helpful. And another thing too, I know a lot of people tend to ask, like, how do we do with the different meeting timing that happens, right? Especially if you're just to add to what you've shared, if you're dealing with um, co-located and distributed teams, offshore teams. So something that we have done which work well is that we asynchronized. We created a Teams channel in on Teams, a channel on Teams, and I had different events on their daily Scrum. So that team would meet and then they'll essentially provide what progress they've made and if
Mhm.
there was any blockers there. So when we come in the morning, we start off from there, look at what they've shared, and then we can be able to communicate with them that way. And then we also had a time where 2 weeks, 2 times in a week, where we meet together collaboratively. To like those meetings are heavily agenda based focus, right? But to your
Mhm.
point, it really you will have to do what works with your team. I think the team has the answer. We don't have to beat our brains or our heads to get this all by ourselves. It's just to
Mhm.
ask, here's the problem. What are your thoughts? Right? What do you
Yep.
guys think is the way we can move forward? It's not about, I know a lot of people tend to throw agile into the mix there. But if you really understand, agility is really the mindset, right? So whatever mindset that you're helping your team to develop, which should be problem solving mindsets, right? If
Mhm.
there's a problem, bring it to their attention so that they can be able to provide to you should provide the platform or a means for them to be able to solve that and provide insight as far as like how to move forward.
Mhm.
Cool. So with
Yeah.
that being, do what you got to do. Scrum Master, engage with those team members, and yeah, and connect with them as far as like what time works, right? What
Yep.
time meetings.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's kind of how it worked because in some ways what we started from the point of do we do 2 hour a 2 hour block every day, and the guys were like, look, it's not going to work
mhm.
because you do every day you're going to get
When
pulled
you
somewhere.
consider it, yeah,
So why don't we take one
be
day?
realistic.
I'm like, if that's what work, does that work for you? And everybody's like, yeah, that works. So
Yeah,
once But once the team agreed to it, it was up to me now to make sure that I could kick it up upstairs to leadership and just make sure that everybody respected that timing. Yeah.
Yeah, there was. I think on my previous company, we have Fridays, observe Fridays, no meetings Fridays. For another company, we had Learning Tuesdays where people are using that time just to specifically learn.
Mhm.
I think different people are utilizing that, to how they want to. But I think that as a team, you guys can make time because there can be a lot of meetings where you tend to um, attend and you don't get the time to actually do the development work, right?
Mhm.
And you end up with stories that are not delivered or work not delivered due to that time. So I just wanted to call out that and thank you, Colin, for actually bringing that. So we are at time. It's 8:04. A
Oh
little
wow.
yeah, a little over time. So I hope if you guys found value in this conversation today, please give us a thumbs up or thumbs down. Um, give us a check or what is it? Um,
Check
feedback
mark
on
feedback.
provide feedback in the chat. Let us know so we can feel better about ourselves that we were able to provide value to you all today on this lovely Monday um, evening. I don't know. I keep wanting to say morning, but this is me being tired right now. So if you guys are still here, clearly it's because you enjoy the conversation. So I appreciate you taking the time to be here. You could be everywhere, anywhere else, but you decided to be here today. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So I'm going to close out from here and then I will jump on Clubhouse and then we can just hear whatever feedback that we get on Clubhouse there and then we can close the show for today. So once again,
All
thank you
right.
everyone for joining.
Yep.
Thank you, Collins, for joining 2 times in a row. That's it.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. Later.
Mhm.